So you're doing this, okay? You're looking at the guitar chord chart and you're trying to put your fingers on, but you're thinking to yourself, I'm doing what the chart says, but my wrist is killing me, or my fingers just don't seem to bend that way. Now, is that you? You know, you see the chord shape and the supposed exact finger placement, but when you try to get those fingers onto the guitar fretboard, it just doesn't happen. So let's talk about how to translate what the guitar chord charts say to how you should actually get your fingers onto the fretboard. So we'll also talk about fat fingers, thin fingers, long fingers, and how to, and of course, how to actually read a guitar chord chart in this video too. So stick around. Let's start off with general finger placement. And you know, the rule of thumb is this, or the rule of finger, is this. It's like here's a G chord. You're only putting your finger, you're putting each finger onto the fretboard, but it should be just behind each fret or the fret wire. Okay, and that seems to work when there's only one finger on each fret. So for example, on the G chord, you have one finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string, one finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and one finger on the low E string, and that seems to work. And the same with the C chord, you know, they've got one finger on each fret, and the same with like the D chord. And so that rule of thumb about having your fingers just behind the fret wire, that works well, and that makes life pretty easy. So yeah, finger placement is definitely just behind the fret wire, just as all of us guitar teachers say. Now before we move on, perhaps we should just talk about the common symbols that you'll see on a guitar chord chart or a guitar chord diagram, or even a guitar chord box, you might hear it called that. And what you see there, you've got the guitar, and it kind of looks like this, doesn't it? Where you've got the 6 strings coming down like that. And there is often on a guitar chord diagram, you will have X's and O's. And the X's mean don't play that particular string. The O's mean play that string. So if we're playing a D major chord, you will see 2 X's and then a 0 or an O, and that means you're going to play the top 4 strings. And if it was a C major chord, you've got the X over the low E string, that's the thickest string, and so you're not playing that. And if you've got a G chord, there are no X's, but there are 3 O's, meaning that you're going to play the 3 strings. If I put it like this, there's 3 strings in the middle. Now the strings are number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6. Sometimes in a guitar chord chart, you will see the 6th string is slightly thicker in the diagram, and this one here is thinner. And also, you will also see this thing here, this is called the nut. And you might see this on the diagram as quite a thick line going across, a black line going across the guitar chord chart. Now, if you want to know why this is the 1st string and this is the 6th string, where it seems a bit weird when you look at it down like this, then I've got a video here that explains that. So hopefully, you know, you're not going to get confused by X's and O's during this video. If you do, just let me know down below in the comments. Now, as I said, finger placement is all well and good when you've got one finger on different frets, on different strings. But what about when there are 2 fingers, not on the same string, but on the same fret, right next to each other? So for example, if we look at this E minor chord here, right, now one finger, yes, is going to be closer to the fret wire than the other, and that's going to be the 2nd finger. That's not the 2nd finger, that's the 3rd finger. Let's do that. That's the 3rd finger that is closer. The 2nd finger now, it's not possible to do that. This is where the dramas begin. You can't have it as it says on the guitar chord chart. There must be a little bit of daylight between, as you can see, there's my second finger and there's the fret. You see it, it's a bit of daylight. And it seems to me that there's some kind of law, a finger placement law that I'm going to call the finger placement law. And what it is that the finger that is closest to the first string is the one that is closest to the fret wire. And as you can see here, that's an E minor, like that. If we also play an A minor chord, we go like this here. There's your A minor chord. You also see it in the diagram. And again, you see the same sort of thing is going on here, right? Where the third finger, that's the third finger. I'm getting my third and my seconds confused today. The third finger is close to the fret wire, not on the fret wire. You never want your finger on the fret wire because you'll get a muffled sound. And the second finger is, well, again, it's slightly pushed back a little bit. And you get a clean sound. So unlike the guitar chord charts, it's not really possible to have your fingers exactly right up there like this. This is where pain starts to happen because you can see where my wrist is. This is painful. And so with my guitar finger placement law, you know, you're going to have this finger closest to the first string is going to be closest to the fret wire. And that's kind of a reason why maybe that, you know, it looks easy, but when you play it, your fingers kind of clash and the notes on the string buzz. Now we're going to look at 3 fingers on the same fret in just a tick, but here are a few issues that total beginners often have. Now we're talking about fingers, right? And sometimes with people who say they have fat fingers or stubby fingers or wide fingers or something like that, one thing you want to try to do is use your fingertips, okay? You're using the tips just before the nail begins. And you also want to make sure that your fingers are kind of curved, allowing your fingers to get onto the fretboard comfortably. Now, I don't think your fingers are ever too fat for this. Now, again, this will just take a bit of practice. Now, what about if you have short fingers? Now, I've got pretty short fingers. Something, though, that might help you is, you know, you're going to need to stretch your hand a little bit. And I've found that if you put your thumb at the back of the fret, okay, if you put your thumb at the back of the fret, so it's here, right, I think that gives you enough flexibility to get the chord, get your fingers onto the guitar fretboard. Now, if you're a little bit older now and you know your flexibility isn't too great, one thing I would definitely recommend is warming up. You want to warm your fingers up, practice stretching, spreading, you know, some dexterity drills. I've got a video here that will help you with this. And, you know, really, I would definitely do some warm-up exercises. Now, if you're finding that maybe your chords are not ringing out, you might want to think about a couple of other things. You might want to think about maybe using lighter guitar strings, maybe changing the action of your guitar. This is kind of adjusting the setup of your guitar, and this is a little bit more complicated, and I would definitely recommend you go to your local guitar shop and ask them to help you out with this. Now, if you're just generally frustrated by what you see on the chord chart and what you get, you know, in return, if you get really frustrated with that, you do need to have patience, because, you know, learning the guitar, especially if you've only been playing a couple of weeks, takes time, and getting your fingers to do what the fret guitar chord chart says is going to take a bit of time and a little bit of work. That's what you need to really take into account. It's going to need time, patience, and persistence. And thinking about my guitar finger placement law is going to help you get what you see here onto here pretty quickly. Now, a chord like the A major is one of the biggest headaches, because you see it, oh my God, it's got 3 fingers all bunched up into one place. It looks easy on the screen, doesn't it? It looks easy on that guitar chord diagram there. But here we go again. You know, you're trying to put in the same position, you're trying to get these three fingers. Maybe you play with your first, second, third. Maybe you do it with, like me, your second, third and fourth. Now, this is where trouble begins, because you're trying to put it in that one place so that it copies that guitar chord diagram, but it doesn't happen, you know, and you're getting this pain here, and your thumb is coming around and it's twisting and it's getting all a little bit awful. So again, the guitar finger placement law, right? Your fourth finger, okay, I'm using my shape for the moment. Your fourth finger is closest to the first string. It's going to be closest to the fret wire. Then you're going to, as you build up, your third finger is just moving a little bit further away. And then your second finger comes on, and you can see there's a lot more daylight between, you know, that there, and then that little finger there. And whoops, now I've got to be careful. I've got to make sure this part of my hand isn't muffling the strings. All right, so we got a clean ringing sound. And as you can see, if you look closely, right, the finger placement here, it's diagonal, isn't it? Which is not the same as that, which is like the most beautiful, perfect thing you'll ever see. But this is what it really looks like. It's bunched up together. It's diagonal. There's daylight between the second finger, the third finger, and the fourth finger is bang in position like that. Isn't that perfect? And that's what you got to realize. What you see on the guitar chord fretboard, I'll start that again. And what you see on the guitar chord chart and what you do in reality is not the same. You need to be very aware of the different types of finger placement that you're going to need depending on how many fingers are on the fretboard and whether they're in like a G chord, as you can see, one finger on different frets, the E minor chord, the A minor chord. Here we have two fingers on the same fret right next to each other, and the same with the A minor, two fingers right next to each other. But the big one is that A chord, three fingers. If you're getting value out of this total beginner guitar tutorial, then why not like and subscribe to get more tips just like this. So next time you're learning a new chord, remember what that is just a guide. It's not how it really is. So think about where your fingers are on the fretboard and think about whether you've got two fingers or maybe three fingers if they are next to each other on the same fret, like I said, the E minor or the A. And think about how, when you're thinking about my, and I'm going to copyright this, my finger placement law, when you're thinking about it, what finger is closest to the first string? Because that one is usually the one that is going to be the closest to the fret, and then everything else starts going in a diagonal motion upwards that way, or that way if you're left-handed. If you want more personalized one-to-one lessons, then I'm on a guitar learning platform called Till. Great for total beginners, where you can ask any questions you like. You can check me out in Till. The link is down below in the description. Hey, let me know down below in the comments if there is a chord that is giving you hell at the moment. I'd love to hear about your struggles and how I can help you. Thank you so much for joining me today, and happy strumming.